Today we are joined by world traveler, digital nomad, and eToro popular investor who not only makes his investments built on fundamental analysis, but with his ethics. Please welcome Gasper Sopi on the show. Hey Gasper, what's up?
Hey Nicole, it's all good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well, excited to jump in with you. What are some of the basic fundamental factors that you take with in regards to your investments?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for that. So basically, the backbone of my strategy on eToro and generally in investing is the idea that we are seeing sort of a mega trend where the individual is sort of coming from the backstage into the front stage. In a way, we at least this is what I'm recognizing, a world which is empowering more the individual with different tools. And the innovation world, especially software, has been sort of the key driver of this revolution of the individual, if I may say. So when I look at what investments, are sort of good candidates to appreciate in the future, I always imagine, whether I would be investing in this company if I wasn't able to trade it. This is to say, for example, if I imagine that the stock market suddenly, closed its doors for 10 years, how confident would I be that this company will still be there in 10 years and it would continue to grow and would continue to sort of provide value to the world? So that's where I start. That's the key indicator. I don't focus too much on whether the price is now high or low initially in order to sort of approach the analysis of a certain company. Once I get
Mm-hmm.
this cleared out, then I start to go into the numbers and I try to look at the growth rates. I start to look at sort of the return on capital invested and things like that are sort of the free cash flow, that are sort of the key indicators that tell me, okay, this company has the fuel to continue to grow, to invest in its products. And of course, it has to be creating products and services that people love, that I personally also sort of find valuable and that I use in my own life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very values driven approach. Do you think or know how much of your popularity as an eToro investor is because of this very positive and values driven approach you take with you in your investing?
Well, again, yeah, thanks for attributing a popularity, the popular word to to what I do on eToro. I mean, yeah, the program is called popular. There are, of course, more popular investors than myself on eToro, but I do think that people who copy me and follow me on eToro, it's about 10,000 people now that are following me, and about 600, 700 are currently copiers. Those that do copy me, they understand my strategy. They are here for the long term. They resonate with what I write and the messages that I convey on the eToro feed. I always write about the importance of thinking long term, of understanding what you own, not being sort of susceptible to short term paradigm changes, and not being very reactive to what the market conditions are. So I'm guessing that part of that popularity owes to my transparency on the feed, and sort of to having this very focused and dedicated direction, which is, like I said, a long-term one.
Mm-hmm. Is there any specific like messaging that you do share with the folks following you that you think resonates with them the most?
Uh, well, I think maybe some of them appreciate sort of my directness. I tend to occasionally be maybe too direct for my own benefit, and it's borderline arrogance or bluntness. But I mean, I am an honest person. At least I believe I am. I certainly aspire to be. And so when I communicate, I tend to call things by their name, and so some of them obviously do appreciate it, and often I get feedback. Okay, you're blunt, but I actually appreciate that you're being honest and you're calling things as they are, so you're not trying to sort of sugarcoat stuff or wiggle out of some difficult conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's we are in the age of authenticity and transparency, and people prefer that much more than being very suit and tie. So I think that's probably what's resonating, right, with your audience, if you will. Is there, something to your process, or could you walk us through the process you have on deciding if a company or fund fits within your guidelines of being one of the quote unquote good ones, environmentally and ethically, or at least maybe not one of the bad ones? How do how do you decipher through that?
Yeah. Well, my key value is, sort of, does this company provide, does this company create the prospects of a better world tomorrow? So that's where I start from, right? So I don't necessarily screen for typical ESG criteria, because I find that, for example, this ESG framework is complicated, and it doesn't always account for the nuances that exist in the real world. So you might have, for example, a situation like recently that Tesla was sort of booted out of the ESG index, while it's the sort of a company that has a core purpose in preserving the environment and ensuring that tomorrow, or in 10 decades, or in 5 decades, we have a planet to live on and invest in. So at the same time, you have a situation where, for example, an oil refinery is still within that index. So I don't specifically go for screening of these ESG criteria, but of course I would never invest in companies opportunistically that go against my values, which is the betterment of the humanity, the expansion of human consciousness, the prospects of creating a more unified, more amicable world. So that's basically what I look from a general perspective. And then of course I think culture within a company is extremely important. So I tend to integrate the culture within a company as a part of my fundamental analysis. So it's not just the numbers that are drivers of my analysis and research, but I also look at the culture, because I think there's a strong correlation between culture and business performance. So if a company is treating employees like just basically exploiting them, or taking advantage of them, then that's a hard stop for me. That's a red flag.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really agree, especially with the last point there. I think that's something that isn't always talked about or considered. And there's a lot of greenwashing out there, a lot of virtual signaling out there that can, be confusing, I think, for investors. So sometimes it's almost better to just like look within and kind of leverage your own gut and reaction to how a company is doing, to understand its values, and of course looking at its culture. Um, I think the other thing that when it comes to ethical investing that maybe gets a little construed is if it actually is making a positive impact. So can you talk to us a little bit about like what kind of positive impact can be made as investors by choosing companies that align more with our morals?
Yeah. Wow, that's a very deep question. So I think in the end, I'm focused sort of mostly on consumer-based companies. This is again, tied to my long-term strategy and mega trend, where the increase in disposable income will probably account for a lot of growth in the companies that I invest in. And so ultimately, consumers vote with their wallets, and we are, as the sort of the consciousness of the planet, of the humanity sort of arises, we are no longer that much concerned with just core preservation, but we are starting to think about our impacts as individuals. We're starting to awaken to the fact that this is the only planet that we currently have, despite some people working on taking us to other planets, but we're not there yet. And so people realize that we need to sort of support the companies that ensure that we continue to have a planet to live on. And so that is basically the way that I look at my also investment process. Does this company will this company benefit from people having awoken to the importance of being moral and ethical? And if not, then I will not consider it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, valuable pieces of advice there. Thank you for that. The
Yeah.
last thing I would ask you is, investing can be emotional and stressful. Money is emotional, and right now it is tough times in the market. So, what are some of your tips to controlling your stress and emotions for investors, and maybe just for people in general, because it's brutal out there in the world.
Yeah, I drink a lot of beer. No, I'm joking.
Martinis.
A joke, obviously. Yeah, I think stress. It depends on the level of stress. I think a little bit of stress that's useful. There's sort of, not to get too philosophical, but nothing really ever gets created without stress. So just going out of the typical comfort zone, that's stress is like a generator of creativity and force. So I embrace stress. In a way, it's something that I don't try to actively avoid, but rather when it appears, then I take it into consideration, like what is it pointing at? Like what is this stress actually telling me? Have I, if I grow uncomfortable with a certain investment, then I do more research. Then I try to, sort of think about, okay, why am I stressed about this? Have I lost confidence? Has my thesis changed? Am I over invested? Should I think about, downsizing the position, or should I think about upsizing? Maybe I'm not invested enough. So, my message to investors would be like, embrace stress and think about it. What is it pointing at? Are you sticking true to your process? Are you sure that you understand your investment principles? Have you over invested? Are you too concerned about price? Do you know what you own? And then, once you sort of answer those questions, then it's very likely that the stress will subside and the markets will do what they do. I mean, the market have their own cycles. It's important to understand what is your sort of long-term perspective. What are your investment goals? Are you looking to generate income? Are you looking for long-term durable growth? Are you looking to just sort of preserve the capital? It all depends actually on the goals that you have.
Hmm. Really well said, and something I haven't thought of doing myself. The next time I get stressed, I'm just gonna look within and check in with myself and see what I need to maybe square away in my foundation. So really well said. Thank you so much, Gasper, for joining the show. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much. It was a great conversation, and yeah, happy to have this experience with you guys.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll see you tomorrow.